There's an overwhelming amount of financial advice in the news and on social media. Who do you listen to? Are they looking out for what's best for you? How do you tune out the noise? In this podcast, trusted advisors Emily Agosto, CPA, and Amanda Vaught, JD, bring their extensive education and experience to delve into all aspects of personal finance. Emily and Amanda make topics like investing, taxes, and financial planning interesting and accessible. And they provide a framework to help you think through the plethora of financial advice and news out there. Are you ready to start making the best personal financial decisions for you? Welcome to Connecting the Dollars with Propel Financial Advisors.
Hello, Amanda.
Hey, Emily, how are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Good. Hot. Summer's coming.
Yeah, it's finally feeling like summer here in Chicago. I don't know. After Memorial Day, it just really heated up over here.
Something about June.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited. We've got plants going and just, I don't know, ready to spend some time in the sun.
Yeah. I think that's the first thing I'm doing if I ever move to a house is making a garden.
Excellent. I'll come help you.
Yes. Oh, okay.
All right. So let's jump into today's episode. We are going to do an episode of listener questions that we have been keeping track of over the last few weeks. So do you want to kick it off for us, Amanda?
Sure. So the first one is about the $600 limit on Venmo and PayPal transactions. And what does that mean and what's up with the tax treatment of those?
Sure. So mid last year, so mid 2022, the IRS said that they were going to start requiring peer-to-peer networks like Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, I'm blanking on some of the others, to start reporting 1099 or start giving 1099Ks to anyone who received over $600 through their software. And the main reason was to, with all the kind of gig economy type of things going on, people are being paid through those instead of being paid through payroll or other, older ways like by a check, things that are a little more traceable. So they're hoping to capture these legitimate payments for goods and services by issuing these 1099Ks. The problem is that a lot of these apps are not set up to be able to distinguish between if I'm paying you for financial services or if I'm paying you because I owe you money for pizza or, we went out to coffee or something like that.
Yeah.
So, and because people are using these so much, especially I see Venmo and Cash App being used, all the time. It's just how you do things these days. It can go over 600 really quickly. So it's creating some issues. There was a lot of pushback from especially Zelle and Cash App. So the IRS in December of 2022 decided okay, we're not going to enforce this rule for that tax season. We're going to enforce it or actually, I haven't heard anything different. So as far as I know, as of today, which is June 2nd of 23, they are going to start enforcing it for the tax year 2023.
Yeah.
So long story short, if you receive a 1099K and it wasn't for goods and services, it was just, for friends, reimbursements, etc., you still have to deal with it on your tax return. The IRS guidance is they say to go back to Venmo or Cash App or whoever and ask them to change it, but that's pretty much not likely that they would do that. Mm-hmm. So there will be a way to report it on your tax return, and there will be a checkbox or something, some workaround that your tax preparer will know about to make sure that it's not taxable income to you.
Yeah. So and wouldn't you say it's a really good idea to make sure you use that memo line? I mean, I use Venmo a lot personally, and so you can write the reason for the payment. And I feel like that could be good evidence to help support you if there ever is a question
exactly,
or just for lunch.
Hmm. I know on PayPal for sure, there, like when you're paying someone, you can choose goods or services or friends and family.
Mhm.
Whether that is accurate, that is, you know, they don't know. Not saying you
Right,
should choose one or the other, like to
right,
try to
right.
skirt the system, but there is a way for PayPal to know what it was for. And they're saying that on Venmo, there is a way you can have like a business profile and a personal profile. So
Mhm.
if you are using Venmo a lot for intermingling, you know, actual goods and services and payments to friends, see if you can separate those out and create a business profile and just use it for business and a personal just for personal. There's still some ongoing like issues with Zelle and Cash App. They're saying that they don't need their, I forgot how they put it, but they were arguing that they weren't subject to the new IRS. Oh my gosh, what's
Reporting
the word?
requirements.
Reporting requirements. That works. For some reason, but I imagine that's either going to be worked out before the 2023 tax season
Mhm.
or they'll, I don't know, the IRS will find a way to make them do it.
Yeah, yeah,
So definitely now is a good time to start if you haven't already started separating those out. Get working on that. But again, if you do receive one, don't ignore it. Your tax preparer will know what to do with it.
yeah. I mean, the one thing I would add that seems to cause some confusion too is that the because I'm a lawyer, so on the legal side, it's the definition of income is
Mhm.
from whatever source derived, is your income tax. So if you got a 1099 from Venmo or another provider or not, if you sold something for $300 on eBay or whatever, that technically is income that you should be reporting on your tax return, whether or not eBay or PayPal sends you a 1099-K. I mean,
Yes,
that doesn't change, this new rule doesn't change the legal requirement that you're required to report your income on your tax return. It's just changing the administrative paperwork and the burden on these providers to services to provide it to you, right?
exactly. Yeah, that's a really good point. Just because you weren't getting a 1099K in the first place, it doesn't like the requirements before were that it was $20,000 or more. So if you were receiving like $19,000 for goods and services, you weren't getting a 1099K, but you should have still been reporting that. So sorry, the cat just woke himself up.
A millionaire foster cats.
Oh my gosh.
I think that's a good transition. Who's your new foster cat?
Uh, this is Marcus. I don't know
Marcus.
if he'll want to
Yeah.
be on camera.
Yeah. If you're listening to this on podcast, you'll have to tune in. Maybe we'll put a picture in our show notes.
He
Marcus is really cute.
he's very sweet. He's going to be, I mean, we're going to adopt him. We're just making sure he
Yeah.
will get along with our other cat.
Mhm. I
He'll-
do love black cats, and I read that black pets like cats and dogs are the least likely to get adopted from shelters, and they
Aw,
tend to be euthanized more often than other colors.
that's sad.
I know, which is sad. Like there's some superstitious thing about black animals for some reason, and
Hmm.
I think they're really pretty. It's like black beauties,
Yeah.
the horse, or I don't know, they're pretty, so I'm glad you got a black cat.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah. But anyway, I digress a little on the cat talk. If you do want to hear more about cats and financial planning, we did do a whole episode on how to think about your budget when adopting a shelter pet. But what is our next question, Emily?
Oh, yes. Okay, so the second question we've been getting a lot is like what should we do? What should I do as an investor about the debt ceiling? What should I be paying attention to?
Yeah, this question drives me a little bit crazy.
Yeah. It's a tough
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, no, but it's fine. And it's like very common, right?
Mhm.
Everybody is like, what's this mean? Right. Because so many people just don't understand it really,
Yeah.
And I would say you don't really need to understand it that much. I mean, in general, it is good to know what's going on. It's good to pay attention to the news. It's good to pay attention, I think, to what Congress and the president are not doing as a good, responsible citizen. But as far as your investments accounts, I would just say it's one of those things at the end of the day, it's out of your control what happens with it. And it shouldn't really be impacting how you approach your investments or your financial planning.
Mhm.
There's always risks out there. And if you've done proper financial planning in advance, this is something that's, just sort of part of it.
Yeah. It shouldn't affect your day to day, like how you're thinking about, like, should I put this on my credit card? Should I pay for this in cash? Like, that's never going to be affected by something that is that far out of your control, like the debt ceiling.
Yeah. And I do
And
think, between that, oh, did I interrupt you?
no, go ahead.
Um, between that, like the media gets all stirred up about it, right?
Right.
And it's fair, it is a big deal. But between that and the stock market downturn last year and the bond market downturn, there's just a lot of fear out there around the financial system, and the Fed raising rates like crazy and inflation. I mean, it's just one more thing that sort of adds to that swirl of like, oh,
Yeah.
that kind of feeling. And, I think it's just, we have to watch it. It's a little bit dangerous because
Mhm.
if people get too afraid, they stop doing what's in their best interest, and it can be a real hindrance.
Yeah.
Um,
I would,
so when people ask, what's going on with the debt ceiling, a lot of times sometimes it's that fear that's really driving the question, you know.
yeah. I would say if you can tune out some of the media, like we said, it's good to be informed and, pay attention to the news and like read up
Mhm.
on whatever you're interested in. But if it's something that's going to actually drive you to make a change to your portfolio, I would suggest talking to your financial advisor first, or talking to someone who can filter that news and kind of make it more personal to you. Like, is it actually going to affect you? I mean, before we were earlier today, we were talking about the fiscal cliff, if you remember that from however long ago, 10 years ago, maybe. Like,
Mhm.
do you remember that affecting your personal life? Like, I just remember reading about it on Twitter, but
Mhm.
it didn't
Yeah.
really affect me.
Yeah. It affected, the ratings agencies who grade, debt, United States debt instruments. I mean, I don't, yeah, that's going to have an impact on the financial system, of
Sure.
course, but day to day, like people, like, whatever.
It's a bigger picture thing.
It's a
I
bigger
guess
picture
so.
thing, right? Exactly. And if these are the kinds of things that's making you a little bit nervous and feeling like maybe you don't want to participate in the markets, that's something to talk about with your financial advisor and say, I'm nervous about this. And then, you can help walk people through, okay, maybe your risk tolerance shouldn't be so high. Maybe we can do more conservative types of investing for you. These types of things are important to share with your
Yeah.
advisor. So I don't in no way want to discourage that kind of question by saying, it's fear-based, because I mean, those emotions and stuff is what drives a lot of financial behavior, and talking it through with a financial advisor can help you still stay on track with what's in your financial best interest, right?
Hmm.
Instead
Yeah.
of letting like Congress or the president derail you into thinking, you know,
Yeah. Thinking you're going to do something wrong or like miss out on something.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. And we recently put out a podcast talking about kind of the recent economy. Um, excuse me, it was a discussion with David Vaught. And I know Amanda's been putting out newsletters with like some various links to resources and just kind of our take on what's going on and what is important to pay attention to. So hopefully you're
Mhm.
already on our
Yeah,
mailing
maybe we
list.
can, I'll link to our latest newsletter in the show
Yeah,
notes. Um, yeah.
great. On that
Okay.
note,
So,
let's go to the last question.
okay.
Well, I guess this one's more of like a kind of a story than a question, but go ahead.
Oh, well, so this was just something that has been coming up periodically with new clients or prospective clients. They have portfolios that they've already either invested themselves or have been invested by a parent or a grandparent, or it's an inheritance. And depending what it is, we start to see some similar patterns with people, right? And so one of them that I've been seeing is an emotional attachment to some of these securities in their portfolio, either because it's like a parent or a grandparent picked it, or they picked it themselves and they're like, think it's going to be this great investment, and maybe it hasn't really panned out that way. But they still have this attachment to it. And so then when they talk to us or as an advisor, they say, are you going to sell it? And then, I'm just like, yes.
Right. You're not attached to it. So
yeah, I'm not attached to it. I'm a third party, and rationally look at it and say, based on our discussions about what's best for your financial situation and your financial goals, like this investment might not make sense to get you to that goal. And then sometimes when you tell people that, you can see it, they have a reaction, like they don't want to hear it.
Right.
And it's hard. And so I try not to be, I'm not so like, brusque with people when I'm talking like that, but sorry, there's a big truck right out the window honking. So that's just one of those another emotional factor in investing that's driving behavior, and people might not recognize it in themselves, but when you're working as a financial advisor and you're working with people and you see these things over and over again, it's just one we see a lot of.
Yeah. There's a few like psychological terms for it we were kind of talking about before this, we started recording. One is the endowment effect. And I like the story you were talking about that kind of demonstrated it, about people getting a raffle ticket or was it kids? It was kids getting a raffle ticket to potentially win this iPad, and they had to pay $5 for the raffle ticket. And before the raffle ticket was picked, to find the winner, someone else offered to buy their raffle ticket for $10. So they could have made $5 then, and just walked away and not had a chance to win the iPad. But the majority of the people wanted to hold on to their raffle ticket. It's worth nothing, but it could potentially be worth more. So it was kind of an interesting way to like think about the investments in your portfolio. It's like you have it and it might pan out someday, but the odds are better to just kind of take the money and run, as I would like to say.
Take the guaranteed rationally, right? The odds of you winning the raffle are minuscule. The odds of you getting $5 by selling your raffle ticket to another person are 100%. Right. You can make $5, not a huge amount, but it's better than zero or being negative $5, right? Rationally, but the rational side of your brain isn't driving the decision, right? It's like the gleam in your eye, right? Like it could be me. And odds are, I'm sorry, but it's just not, and that stuff it's hard until like a third party rational person points it out to you. You're like, oh, I was doing that maybe. Oh, like it's hard, that kind of thing. So
yeah. Even recently for me, Amanda and I were talking about, we might have talked about this on another episode, but anyway, we were talking about a potential client and how she would like demonstrate a particular option for investing to them. And I was looking at it and I'm like, oh, I should do this. So it was kind of just like taking myself out of my own portfolio and seeing like, there's a better way to do this that I just hadn't thought of because it's my money. But when I looked at it from her perspective, when it was like, oh, this is someone else's money, it's like, this totally makes sense. I'm missing out. So long story short, I made some changes and started investing differently. But it's just really interesting. Like, it's not that I'm not a rational person. It's just that when it comes to my own money, you just kind of look at it differently.
For sure. And I think even, I work as an investment advisor. I invest people's money for them. Right. And then I also have my own portfolio, and I ask my colleagues to do it for me, because I'm just like, you catch yourself. I'm like, oh, I'm going to buy this. I'm going to win big. And I'm like, wait a second. No, I'm not. Right. And then I'm like, okay, I'm not thinking straight about this. And then I asked David, Danielle, what would you do? And like, stop yourself before you do it. Recognizing it is the first step, right?
Yes.
So, and I was going to say, the thing that we were talking about before was dollar cost averaging, which I was thinking maybe we should do a whole podcast episode on that, but I don't know if anybody wants to hear about it for that long. But it is the best way to invest your funds. Studies show that doing a regular monthly contribution gives you superior investment results, instead of accumulated it in your savings account and then saying, oh, now I have an extra $1,000, now I'll invest it. It's better to do $100 a month for 10 months instead of waiting 10 months and then putting the 1,000 in.
Yeah, I was going to say this in one of the earlier questions, but like, there's never going to be a perfect time to invest. There's never going to be a perfect time to take out your money. Like, one of the things we try to do is to set people up for those times of uncertainty, whether the market is up or whether the market is down. You'll be able to, access your funds, and you'll have accumulated enough so that you'll still be okay, even if you have to take out money when the market is down or at a bad time. So you kind of have to take the timing out of it, and dollar cost averaging does just that, really. And it might not be intuitive, but I think once you see some different graphs and charts and look at the numbers, you'll see it. Oh, that is the right thing to do. So that definitely happened to me.
Yes. I'm glad I got the Emily endorsement.
Yeah, it's powerful.
Yes. Okay. Should we leave it there, Emily?
Yeah, I think we covered several different things, but it still all kind of goes together. I mean, the tax question that we talked about at the top, like, we'll see if that's going to be a big issue for people. But if you are someone who uses Venmo a lot or Cash App, do pay attention. Try to separate things out as best you can. And we'll follow the news on that, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, talk about emotional triggers, like taxes. Just saying that word triggered people.
I know. Tax season is all year, people. It's not just a couple months.
Yes.
Get used to the anxiety.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, we'll leave it at that.
Listening, everyone.
Yeah, hopefully you found something helpful, and find us at connectingthedollars.com for any questions and extra resources.
Yeah, I'd submit more listener questions, please. Yes. We're happy to answer them.
Excellent. All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
That will do it for this episode of Connecting the Dollars. Nothing discussed in this episode should be considered legal, financial, or tax advice. If you like what you heard, please subscribe for more at Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your content. When you do, please give us a rating and a review. To see the links we mentioned in our show, along with other great Propel Financial Advisors content, go to connectingthedollars.com. You can find our past episodes there and subscribe to our newsletter. And if you're still here because you have a general question, you can email us directly at info@connectingthedollars.com. Or, if you're interested in working with us, click the Schedule a Consultation button on our website. Thank you for listening.